So the now in relationships to me is defined as the spontaneous moment to moment continuity that's happening in everything that's around us. So it's actually the most elevated place we can ever get into a relationship because it's when you know that time does not actually exist, that it's truly arbitrary, that it's just a measure of how many times the earth rotates around the sun. So if that is actually the holy grail, and if that's the place we ultimately want to end up, then we have to think about reverse engineering how to get into the now. And that means almost exhausting ourselves in the present moment and getting stuck in all of our ways of traditional bringing thoughts into our minds and overanalyzing and so forth. So what I would suggest is if you're interested in getting into that place where it's like you're dancing and it's not like you're really even paying attention to anything, but you're really just dancing, then try to do the over practice on the other end, which means overanalyze. So a best practice I have to start with is get yourself into a place where you've thought of everything you can think of in relationships. So make a journal, write it all down, and get really clear on what it is you want. Maybe it's like the 25 things that you know that you need, right? Turn that over a few times, then go ahead and write down who the people have been in your past that have missed these things and so forth. Get really clear on that. And then you're going to start to realize that eventually no one's going to fit everything. Now, that means that you're going to have to think about in those relationships, when were you most comfortable where you actually weren't like uncomfortable about the person's, let's say behavior, and when were you in that state where you were so peaceful, let's say the majority of the time. So the now is going to be something that's very difficult to understand because when you're in it, you're not going to know it. So even in this context right now, I'm not in the now because I just acknowledged the now. So in the now, focus on exhausting yourself of the non-now, and then you can start stepping into it. So another practice, get in touch with your breath. As I breathe deeper, more oxygen goes to my brain. As more oxygen is in my brain, I start to relax more. My heart can actually slow down, and you'll hear it right now in my voice as I draw awareness to it. When I speak slower and I release the breath slower, I actually start to get into potentially a theta wave state where my brain is actually relaxing more and it's actually processing information at a smoother rate. So focus on your breath. Deep breaths as much as you can, especially when you get stuck. And that will, for a moment, take you into the now, because when you're breathing, you can't be thinking. Well, most of the time. So start with your breath. Own it as much as you can in your daily interactions. Don't just think you have to breathe behind closed doors. If you're in front of somebody and you need to turn around and take a deep breath, do it. But focus on your breath. So after analyzing and getting all that junk out of your head and you've spewed it all out on paper, and you've turned it over a few times and realized that nobody's ever going to be perfect, and then you've gotten to your place with your breath and you're in tune, start feeling the emotions that come into you moment by moment. So own those emotions, name those emotions. If, for instance, right now I'm feeling warm, try and understand why would I be feeling that? So is it only in the left side of my body? Is it in my feet? Is it in my head? Is it in my chest? Try to really get into naming the feelings and the sensations, because once you've got those down, you're now starting to work on a muscle that will get you more tuned in to the actual spontaneity of that moment. And yes, you're going to be thinking, if you're asked if you're thinking that you're feeling sad, or you're feeling a little bit boisterous, or you're feeling a little lonely, or you're feeling a little bit ridiculous. The idea is try to get clean with your emotions, name them, and then you can actually turn to guides like Chinese medicine for best practices of understanding why those emotions are actually occurring in you. So for instance, if you're, let's say, afraid a lot, you might be holding on to some fear. So there's certain organs that correspond in your body to fear. And so you want to understand what those are, and maybe you want to even add different things to help give yourself the proper nutrition to help in that area, and start developing an awareness of who in your life is bringing up more fear, in your life, whether it's a parent or a brother or it's a coworker, and understanding that that's actually rubbing off on you. So those are 3 practices. Again, overanalyzing is a good thing to the point where you've got it all out of your head. You got it down on paper. It's done. You can get back to it every once in a while if you ever need to. Get into your breath moment by moment. That's ultimately going to be your biggest asset in any situation. That extra oxygen will give you a good kick and it can slow down your heart rate. And then third, focus on naming your emotions, feeling your body, feel all the sensations, and just start naming them so that you're in tune with where you are in that exact place. And ultimately, that will start helping you with other people, because if you're going to get into that flow and that dance, you have to be really comfortable with where you are exactly right now.